My dear students, now we are in Unit 6 History, Part 2. Rebellion of Veerabandiya Kattabomman. Veerabandiya Kattabomman became the Palekarar of Panchalam Kuruchi at the age of 30 on the death of his father, Jagaveera Pandiya Kattabomman. The company's administrators, James London and Colin Jackson, had considered him a man of peaceful disposition. However, soon several events led to conflicts between Veerabandiya Kattabomman and the East India Company. The Nawab, under the provisions of a treaty signed in 1781, had assigned the revenue of the Carnatic to the company to be entirely under their management and control during the war with Mysore Sultan. 1/6 of the revenue was to be allowed to meet the expenses of Nawab and his family. The company had thus gained the right to collect taxes from Panchalam Kuruchi. The company appointed its collectors to collect taxes from all the Palayams. The collectors humiliated the Palayakarars and adopted force to collect the taxes. This was the bone of contention between the English and Kattabomman. Confrontation with Jackson. The land revenue arrear from Kattabomman was 3,310 pagodas in 1798. Collector Jackson, an arrogant English officer, wanted to send an army to collect the revenue dues, but the Madras government did not give him permission. On 18th August 1798, he ordered Kattabomman to meet him in Ramanathapuram. But Kattabomman's attempts to meet him in between proved futile as Jackson refused to give him audience but in Kutralam and Srivilliputtur. At last, an interview was granted and Kattabomman met Jackson in Ramanathapuram on 19th September 1798. It is said that Kattabomman had to stand for 3 hours before the haughty collector Jackson. Sensing danger, Kattabomman tried to escape along with his minister Sivarasubramanian R. Oomuturai suddenly entered the fort with his men and helped the escape of Kattabomman. At the gate of Ramanathapuram fort there was a clash in which some people including Lieutenant Clark was killed. Subramanian R was taken prisoner. Appearance before Madras Council. On his return to Panchalam Kuruchi, Kattabomman represented to the Madras Council about how he was ill-treated by the collector Jackson. The council asked Kattabomman to appear before a committee with William Brown, William Oram and John Casamaja as members. Meanwhile, Governor Edward Clive ordered the release of Subramanian R and the suspension of the collector Jackson. Kattabomman appeared before the committee that sat on 15th December 1798 and reported on what transpired in Ramanathapuram. The committee found Kattabomman was not guilty. Jackson was dismissed from service and a new collector S.R. Linguiston appointed. Kattabomman cleared almost all the revenue arrears, leaving only a balance of 1,080 pagodas. Kattabomman and the Confederacy of Palayakaras. In the meantime, Marudu Pandiyar of Sivagangai formed the South Indian Confederacy of rebels against the British, with their neighboring Palayakaras like Gopala Nayak of Dindukal and Yadul Nayak of Anamalai. Marudu Pandiyar acted as its leader. The Tiruchirappalli proclamation had been made. Kattabomman was interested in this confederacy. Collector Linguiston prevented Kattabomman from meeting the Marudu brothers. But Marudu brothers and Kattabomman jointly decided on the confrontation with the English. Kattabomman tried to influence Sivagiri Palayakarars who refused to join. Kattabomman advanced towards Sivagiri, but the Palayakarars of Sivagiri was a tributary to the company. So the company considered the expedition of Kattabomman as a challenge to their authority. The company ordered the army to march on to Tirunelveli. The siege of Panchalam Kurchi. In May 1799, Lord Wellesley issued orders from Madras for the advance of forces from Tiruchirappalli, Tanjavur and Madurai to Tirunelveli. Major Bannerman commanded the troops, the Travancore troops, to join the British. On 1st September 1799, an ultimatum was served on Kattabomman to surrender. Kattabomman's evasive reply prompted Bannerman to attack the fort. Bannerman moved his entire army to Panchalam Kurichi on 5th September. They cut off all the communications to the fort. Bannerman deputed Ramalinganar to convey a message asking Kattabomman to surrender. Kattabomman refused. Ramalinganar gathered all the secrets of the fort, and on the basis of this report, Bannerman decided the strategy of the operation. In a clash at Kalayarpatti, Sivasubramanianar was taken a prisoner. Execution of Kattabomman. Kattabomman escaped to Pudukkottai. The British put a price on his head. Betrayed by the Rajas of Ettayapuram and Pudukkottai, Kattabomman was finally captured. Sivasubramanianar was executed at Nagalapuram on the 13th September. Bannerman made a mockery of a trial for Kattabomman in front of the Palayakarars on 16th October. During the trial, Kattabomman bravely admitted all the charges leveled against him. Kattabomman was hanged from a tamarind tree in the old fort of Kayathar, close to Tirunelveli, in front of the fellow Palayakarars. Thus ended the life of the celebrated Palayakarars of Panchalam Kurichi. Many folk ballads on Kattabomman helped keep his memory alive among the people. The Marudu brothers. Periya Marudu or Vella Marudu and his younger brother Chinna Marudu were able generals of Muthuvadugar of Sivagangai. After Muthuvadugar's death in the Kalayar Kovil battle, Marudu brothers assisted in restoring the throne to Velu Nachiyar. In the last years of the 18th century, Marudu brothers organized resistance against the British. After the death of Kattabomman, they worked along with his brother Umaithurai. They plundered the granaries of the Nawab and caused damage and destruction to company troops. Proclamation of 1801. The proclamation of 1801 was an early call to the Indians to unite against the British, cutting across region, caste, creed, and religion. The proclamation was pasted on the walls of the Nawab's palace in Tiruchirappalli fort and on the walls of Sri Rangam temple. Many Palayakarars of Tamil country rallied together to fight against the English. Chinna Marudu collected nearly 20,000 men to challenge the English army. British reinforcements were rushed from Bengal, Ceylon and Malaya. The Rajas of Pudukkottai, Ettayapuram and Tanjavur stood by the British. Divide and the policy followed by the English split the forces of the Palayakarars soon. Fall of Sivagangai. In May 1801, the English attacked the rebels in Tanjavur and Tiruchirappalli. The rebels went to Piranmalai and Kalayarkovil. They were again defeated by the forces of the English. In the end, of the superior military strength and the able commanders of the English company prevailed. The rebellion failed and Sivagangai was annexed in 1801. The Marudu brothers were executed in the fort of Tirupattur near Ramanathapuram on 24th October 1801. Umaithurai and Savathaiya were captured and beheaded at Panjalam Kurichi on 16th November 1801. 73 rebels were exiled to Penang in Malaya. Though the Palayakars fell to the English, their exploits and sacrifices inspired later generations. Thus, the rebellion of Marudu brothers, which is called South Indian Rebellion, is a landmark event in the history of Tamil Nadu. Dhiran Chinnamalai. Born as Tirthagiri in 1756 in the Mandradiya royal family of Palayamkottai, Dhiran was well trained in Silambu, archery, horse riding and modern warfare. He was involved in resolving family and land disputes in the Kongu region. As this region was under the control of Mysore Sultan, tax was collected by Tipu's Diwan Muhammad Ali. Once when the Diwan was returning to Mysore with the tax money, Tirthagiri blocked his way and confiscated all the tax money. He let Muhammad Ali go by instructing him to tell his Sultan that Chinnamalai, who is between Sivanmalai and Chennimalai, was the one who took away taxes. Thus he gained the name Dhiran Chinnamalai. The offended Diwan sent a contingent to attack Chinnamalai, and both the forces met and fought at the Noyal river bed. Chinnamalai emerged victorious. Trained by the French, Dhiran mobilized the Kongu youth in thousands and fought the British together with Tipu. After Tipu's death, Dhiran Chinnamalai built a fort and fought the British without leaving the place. Hence the place is called Odanilai. He launched guerrilla attacks and evaded capture. Finally, the English captured him and his brother and kept them in prison Sangagiri. When they were asked to accept the rules of the British, they refused. So they were hanged at the top of the Sangagiri fort on 31st July 1805. Vellore Revolt 1806. Before reducing all Palayakaras of South Tamil Nadu into submission, the East India Company had acquired the revenue districts of Salem, Dindigul at the conclusion of the war with Tipu in 1792. Coimbatore was annexed at the end of the Anglo-Mysore War in 1799. In the same year, the Raja of Tanjavur, whose status had been reduced to that of a vassal in 1798, gave up his sovereign rights over that region to the English. After the suppression of the resistance of Kattabomman and Marudu brothers, the British charged the Nawab of Arcot with a disloyalty and forced to treaty on him. According to this treaty of 1801, the Nawab was to cede the districts of North Arcot and South Arcot, Tiruchirappalli, Madurai and Tirunelveli to the company and transfer all the administrative powers to it. The grievances of Indian soldiers. The sepoys in the British Indian Army nursed a strong sense of resentment over low salary and poor prospects of promotion. The English Army officers' scant respect for the social and religious sentiments of the Indian sepoys also angered them. The state of peasantry from which class the sepoys had been recruited also bothered them much. With new experiments in land tenures causing unsettled conditions and famine breaking out in 1805, many of the sepoys' families were in dire economic straits. The most opportune situation come with the sons and the family members of the Tipu being interned in Vellore fort. The trigger for the revolt came in the form of a new military regulation notified by the Commander-in-Chief Sir John Cradock. Outbreak of the revolt. On 10th July 1806, the early hours guns were booming and the Indian sepoys of the 1st and 23rd Regiments raised the standard of the revolt. Colonel Francourt, who commanded the garrison, was the first victim. Colonel McCarras of 23rd Regiment was killed next. Major Armstrong, who was passing the fort, heard the sound of firing. When he stopped to inquire, he was showered with bullets. About a dozen other officers were killed within an hour or so, among them Lieutenant Ellie and Lieutenant Popham belonged to His Majesty's battalion. Estimate of revolt. The Vellore revolt failed because there was no immediate help from outside. Recent studies show that the organizing part of the revolt was done perfectly by the Subedar Sheikh Adam and Sheikh Hamid and Jamaidar Sheikh Hussain of the 2nd Battalion of 23rd Regiment and 2 Subedars and the Jamaidar Sheikh Qasim of the 1st Battalion of the 1st Regiment. Vellore revolt had all the 4 bearings of the Great Rebellion of 1857. The only difference was that there was no civil rebellion following the mutiny. The 1806 revolt was not confined to Vellore revolt. It had its echoes in Bellary, Walajabad, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Nandidurg and Sankarai Durg.